Hi there, and thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about lesson 14.2, finding cube roots. Today we're looking for 11 things in our notes. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we want to make sure we understand is what is a cube. So whenever you cube a number, you multiply that number by itself 3 times. So 4 cubed means 4 times 4 times 4, and that gives you 64. To undo this, you're going to take the cube root of that number. So the cube root of 64 is 4 because 4 times 4 times 4 gives you 64. So you're looking for that one number to answer that question. Go ahead and take time now to pause the video here so you can write down what you see for number 1 and the differences between cubing a number and finding the cube root of a number. Once you're done, click play to see what happens next. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how to find the cube root of numbers. For instance, this one actually shows a picture of the cube, and that's actually where maybe the definition of a cube comes from, because when you find the volume of a cube, you always do the area of the base times height, or length times width times height. And then in this case, the volume is 343, so each side will be 7, because when you multiply 7 by 7 by 7, you do get 343. So the cube root of 343 is equal to 7. What you're going to try here is you're going to go ahead and try to find the sides of each of the cube. For the first one you see on the screen, number 2 in your notes, that's the cube root of 27, and then number 3 in your notes is the cube root of 125. So go ahead and pause the video here so you can see what the cube root of each of those numbers are, and then once you're done, click play so you can check your work. Alright, so the cube root of 27 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times another 3 is 27, so the cube root of 27 is equal to 3. For number 3, the cube root of 125 is 5. I know 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 times 5 is 125, so the cube root of 125 is equal to 5. It also might help for you to write down a list of the cube roots, maybe just writing down 3 to the third power is equal to this, 4 to the third is equal to that, just so you might have a list to help you out with these. Here's another option we're going to be looking at too. Remember last time in lesson 14.1 we looked at different fractions and found the square root of fractions. We're doing the same thing here. We're trying to find the cube root of 1/8. Remember, if you're trying to find the cube root of 1/8, you can also take those two numbers individually and find the cube root of 1 over the cube root of 8, and then find your fraction as an answer in simplest form. The cube root of 1 is equal to 1 because 1 times 1 times 1 is still 1. The cube root of 8 is 2 because 2 times 2 times 2 is equal to 8. Therefore, the cube root of 1/8 is equal to 1/2, which means all of these sides are equal to 1/2. Here's one that you're going to try. Let's go ahead and pause the video now so you can find the cube root of 1/27. Once you're done, click play to check your work. Okay, like I said, the cube root of 1/27 can be equal to the cube root of 1 over the cube root of 27. Like we just mentioned before, we know the cube root of 1 is 1, and the cube root of 27 is 3, like we did in option 2 or 3 there, back there. So my answer for this one in number 4 is 1/3. The next thing we're going to find is just some more challenging ones. Again, we're going to go ahead and pause the video here so you can try 5 and 6, and once you're done, click play to check your work. Okay, for number 5, what I like to maybe focus on is instead of focusing on the 64,000, I know that I could find the cube root of 64. The cube root of 64 is 4, but then I have 3 separate zeros, so I just cut those into 3 pieces, and one of those numbers goes here because 40 times 40 times 40 is equal to 64 with 3 zeros, or 64,000. I know the cube root of 64,000 is equal to 40. For number 6, again, that's finding the cube root of a fraction. Remember, you can just break that down into the cube root of the top number over the cube root of the bottom number. The first one is easy, that's 1, and then the cube root of 216 is actually 6. 6 times 6 is 36, times another 6 is equal to 216. So 1/6 is my answer for number 6. Okay, the next thing I want you to watch are just these. So we have a few different options here. Letter A is pretty simple. You're just finding the cube root of 8. That's still equal to 2. Okay, the difference about letter B though is that it has a negative within the root symbol. That is okay. Before, when we talked about the square root of a number, you can never have this. You can't have some number in here with a negative in here because, like in chapter 1, we learned Monkey Man, a negative times a negative has to equal to positive. You can't do a negative times a positive and then still get a positive there, okay? So in this case, you just focus on the cube root of 27, which I know is 3, but since it has a negative with it, we keep the negative. So my answer, if I do negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, that will give me negative 27. So my answer for this cube root of negative 27 is negative 3. Okay? Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. And then 9 times negative 3 still equals negative 27. That's just my work shown there. For letter C, this one just goes back to what we've been talking about, the cube root of 1 over the cube root of 64. That's going to be equal to 1 over 4. Easy peasy. So basically the only new thing we learned on this page was option B. Whenever you have a negative cube root, your answer will always be negative. Feel free to write this down if you would like to. If not, keep on playing so we can try some more questions. Here are 7, 8, and 9. Again, you're going to try these. Be careful on numbers 8 and 9 because they both have a negative in there, and a 9 has negative and a fraction. So let's go ahead and pause the video now so you can try these 3. Once you're done, click play. Alright, number 7 is easy. The cube root of 1 is 1. For number 8, the cube root of negative 343 is going to be negative 7. Negative 7 times negative 7 is a positive 49. And 49 times negative 7 is negative 343. Okay? For number 9, the cube root of negative 27 over 1,000. Remember, you can just take the cube root of 27 and the cube root of 1,000, break it up like that. Cube root of 27 is 3. The cube root of 1,000 is 10. And since there's a negative sign right here, I'm going to keep my answer negative. So my answer for number 9 is negative 3/10. The last part, you're just going to be evaluating the cube roots first and then solving the expression. So kind of like order of operations. Let's go ahead and take time now to pause the video here so you can try these 2. And once you're done, click play to check your work. Okay, so for number 10, what I did first is I looked at just the cube root. So I'm going to find the cube root of negative 216. I know the cube root of 216 is 6, so the cube root of negative 216 is negative 6. And then I'm going to bring down this 2. And these 2 are just going to be multiplied together. 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Okay, for number 11, I looked at first just within the parentheses. The cube root of 125 is 5. And then when I cube 5 one more time, I get right back to 125. Basically, if you ever have a cube root of something being cubed, your answer is always going to be equal to whatever's inside the cube root. It doesn't matter if it's a funky number like 1,259, finding the cube root and then cubing it again is equal to that number inside there. So that's just something that you can keep in mind for the future. That's going to conclude our video today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.